Good evening, 25th of June 2025. Welcome to my monthly video broadcast on YouTube channel. First of all, I like to warn you about something not very well known among Muslims. Although they are Muslims, it's not celebrated just like other religious holidays, but tonight is the eve of the new year of the Muslims. Actually, it's the 1447. We are entering 1447, year 1447 of the Muslim calendar. Tomorrow is the first of the Muharrem month of 1447, because the calendar is made of moves of the moon. Therefore, it's a different history. Actually, it started in 622 with the pilgrimage of move from the Prophet Muhammad from Mecca to Medina. So that's assumed to be the start of the Muslim calendar. And right now it's the 1447. So you have to subtract 1447 minus 622 to calculate exactly how many 800 years passed from that date. So after mentioning this very unknown event that we are on the New Year Eve of the 1447, I'd like to go to different subjects. Of course, there were a lot of things that happened during the past month, but I don't want to discuss about the things that are discussed everywhere, on every television, on every channel, which is, of course, the so-called Third World War fiasco, war, and everybody. And I also mentioned in the Turkish TV, there cannot be a war between United States, Israel, and Iran. Why? Because they are not bordering each other, and it's like a similar war on Iraq, and Syria. Basically, there is no chance of invading these countries because neither side, U.S. doesn't want to keep troops on other countries' land. Even if they conquer, they just leave as quick as possible, just like they did in all the other countries, including Afghanistan. So Israel has a very small population and very small country. So they have no intention to conquer a country almost twice the size of Texas. Even if Iranians just give it them as a gift, there is no way you can control it. So basically, what's the aim of sending all those missiles and jets and it's not the nuclear, because nuclear is the excuse. The reason is, if Iran owns ballistic high capability ballistic missiles, maybe 18,000 of them, maybe 100,000, maybe 1 million, what's the difference than having a nuclear bomb? They can destroy equal amount with just ballistic missiles of this capacity, as we saw what happened in Tel Aviv and Haifa. So basically, this is just checking how strong is the enemy, but the real trial was to bring the old Iranian king to power. If people just went, let's say, haywalk, and they decided to throw up the Khomeini government, because so basically, there will never be an invasion in this type of situation. There's only one aim: changing the existing governments, okay? And all the movements in the Middle East are resulted, including Libya, including Syria, including Iraq, yes, they all resulted in changing of the rulers, which are sort of not friendly, but sort of, applying what the United States tells. So if they, while doing this, they're also working on a project where they can have bigger forces like Kurdistan, and to bring them together in Iraq, in Syria, and Iran and Turkey. So, but basically, all these countries, people should think these countries will never be occupied. They cannot be occupied. Only if their management, the people who rule, are planned to be changed. Basically, we must first understand that. Otherwise, it's no funny thing like Turkey fighting with Norway, throwing missiles from Turkey to Norway, and Norway throwing missiles to Turkey or sending jets, whatever. So there is no way you can conquer for either side. It's impossible. Even if you conquer it for a short time, like they did in Iraq, it's impossible to maintain it. So basically, we must understand, discuss the basics of what's the objective of this, and they are useful for politicians, for both sides. As you know, Tehran was celebrating with the daytime sending of fireworks. Similarly, Israel was celebrating. Similarly, President Trump is celebrating, saying, I brought peace, now it's all finished. Whereas there are reports that there wasn't enough damage to the nuclear facilities. And in that case, if there is, Trump claims there is a lot of damage to the nuclear facilities. And Iranians are, sneaky people. So what they said, yes, there is very big damage in our, but initially they said there is so small damage, they just blew up some of our doors, gates, basically that's all that happened. But right now they're saying, oh yes, there is a big damage. So that then in the future they will say, you told us that for 5-10 years we cannot ever get back to our nuclear program. So you are lying yourself. You said yourself that we ran out of all the nuclear facilities. So they will keep working as quickly possible. Probably in a 3 or 4 month time, they will restart using their enriched uranium, advancing forward. And in the meantime, they got offers from North Korea and some other countries. We'll provide you the atomic bomb, nuclear bomb. Why are you bothering about this? Okay, as we are not on the social political side of this event, we are more on the monetary sides of this event. So assumably, gold was supposed to go up extremely high if this was really a third world war instead of a third world war fiasco. So gold never bought the news. It always stayed behind its past record, which was $3,500. The highest we saw during this 10, 12, whatever days adventure, it only went up to 390. Okay, even it didn't exceed $3,400. So it was well below $100 below its previous record. If gold sensed that there's a real war, it would easily surpass even $4,000. Why the gold prices the wars? Basically, in the wartime, there is not money left to buy gold. But the real idea behind it is when both sides spend so much money for war, in the end, they will have to print up so much money to recover those costs. So when they start printing so much money, it's going to cause inflation. And inflation makes gold go up, 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 all the way up. We don't know where it will stop because we came here in 70 years from $35 to $300 and $500, which is 100 times in US dollars. So basically, there is no stopping as long as US dollar evaporates. And on the other hand, there are strong evidence that the US government of Trump wants to evaporate the US dollar. That's why it's pressuring Powell, calling him idiot, this and that, whatever words, a child will use, against a designated or elected, whatever, person in the government. So because he's not doing what he's telling, because Powell's job is to save the value of the US dollar, protect the value of US dollar, whereas Trump and teams wants to kill the value of the US dollar. For why? For what reason? Otherwise, there is no way they can pay this $37 trillion. Today, the budget numbers came. There is incredibly bad numbers, $390 billion missing from the budget. Plus, even with Elon Musk's Doge studies and the income coming from the new tariffs, that's still a very small dent, very small dent it goes. Basically, it's going full speed towards uh, bankruptcy, or I'll say governments don't get bankrupt, they default. So as a reserve currency, they are not expected to default, at least not in the near future, but they'll keep printing. That's why the original value of US dollar is right now 3% of the 100%, 3% is left of the original US dollar price. How do we know? Originally, one US dollar was 1 ounce of gold. So $1 was costing $3,500. So that's where we know it just divided to 3,500. That's what's only left behind. So it's so small. Basically, they want to evaporate it further because if you get a loan, just like I always explain it with buying a house on mortgage. If you buy a house on mortgage, assume that you bought it at 3%. Right now it's around 7%. And inflation goes up to, just for the sake of this argument, 10% per annum. What happens is you gain extreme amounts of money because while your house appreciates roughly around 10% every year, your loan is only 3%. So in a matter of very quickly, let's say a couple of years, your house is all paid up for, and its value probably went up from, let's say, $300,000 to $3 million. So the loan you have inside is worth nothing. So that's the type of application I do in Turkey, because we have very high inflation here. That's why I try to get any possible loan, long-term loan, fixed loan, so that my loan melts away. I have an example that I bought a house 8 years ago. I bought many houses, but the last one I bought was 8 years ago. I just bought a new one. That's different. 8 years ago, it was only 135,000. Don't bother dollar or TL. Right now, the same house today I saw in an ad is selling for 2.8 million. Okay, in 8 years. How much interest and payments I made, plus all the rentals I collected. So assume that I took 100,000 loan and I paid it, let's say, 3 times more, with the interest and everything. 300,000, okay, 350,000. The house is worth 2.8 million today, and plus I paid most of the monthly payments through the rent fees. Basically, I think since last 4 years, I'm not paying any mortgage installments. The house rent is paying it automatically by itself. So even better than USA, where you can own a house with a 15 to 30-year mortgage. In Turkey, in 3 or 4 years, if you bought at the right time during a very high inflation with a low interest rate, you are rich. And exactly the same is happening in the US for the boomers, because they bought their houses again with 2, 3, 4%, even recently, even after 2008. And right now, people are paying 3 times more than they are paying, but still, or let's say minimum 2 times as they are paying, and their houses appreciated. Median home price went up to $400,000. So initially they were 100,000 US dollars. Basically, loan made everyone rich. That's why everybody went on to mortgage loans. And today I had news that the New York mayor, to be a Democratic runner, was Mario Cuomo. Has a competition, a Muslim competitor. Today is the Muslim New Year. And besides being Muslim, he's a very high socialist. And he's siding with renters' rights instead of owners' rights. Plus, so I think very bad days for New York residents or owners or investors are very close. You can expect, if he's to be elected, huge price drops in the residential, especially in New York City. So sell it as fast as you can if you think he's going to be elected. Okay? Because we had similar moves in Turkey, but funny enough, by the capitalist government and the socialist opposition, they both claim lower rates. So they forced for 2 years only to increase 25% the rentals, and during 80-90% inflation, and that was good heaven for renters for 2 years only. Then when it ended, suddenly right now their rents are going up 60, 65, 80%. So they are shocked, the 6, 7,000 TL monthly rentals are now above 25, 30,000 just in 1 year. So you are not really helping anyone because they are not saving that money that you've been easy on them. They spent it somewhere else, and now today their rent went up double or triple. So it's not really useful. It's not a solution. Only solution for housing is creating more houses, but it's not happening because new house sales came from the US as just recently today, and they are terribly down, more than expected. Let me give you the numbers. Last month was 722,000 houses, new home sales, and this month was expected as about 28,000 less. Unfortunately, it came 100,000 houses less. Okay, new home sales are 100,000 homes down from last month. So this is a not the news about just housing. This is news about coming big recession, including maybe it could be a stagflation, which Powell today in the Senate and the House they declared that's the worst thing that can happen to Fed, because they know what to do during recession, they know what to do during inflation, but during stagflation, which is a mixture of stagflation and inflation, they don't know what to do. They cannot increase the interest rate, they cannot decrease the interest rate. They don't have a solution for stagflation. So stag is coming. Inflation, we will see based on how much money they print, and that's exactly what Trump wants to do. Just copy what Turkey had done, just increase printing money and get people's wealth, transfer wealth from people who gave money to government, and evaporate that money in US dollar and pay them back in very, very small US dollar currency equivalent. So government became rich in Turkey. Similarly, why? Because their loans evaporated. They are just printing the same money in TL though. In the US, it's also their local money, so they can evaporate it in US dollars. Turkey cannot evaporate the loans in foreign currency because it cannot print foreign currency. But US can print its own currency, which is also foreign currency. So I expect in the coming 2 years, there will be extremely high inflation, including with, if it comes with the recession, it's going to be a stagflation, unfortunately. We will see. Right now, tomorrow, they will have there are numbers we are expecting from the US again tomorrow, which is a sign of whether it's going to go into stagflation or not. Recession as indicator, which is GDP first quarter. Right now, based on economic calendar in investing, it's expected minus 0.2, very small minus, okay, from 2.4 down to 0.2. We will see if this quarter, the first quarter, it already passed long time ago. This is not even the second quarter we are about to finish. This input comes in very late. So if it comes in minus, and it's agreed, but they changed it as well. Then if 2 quarters back to back minus means recession. But it did happen in the US a couple of years ago. They said, no, we changed the rule. No longer 2 quarters back to back is the recession. We have a recession committee that will tell you whether we are in a recession or not. Basically, they keep changing the rules during the match. And let me also, tomorrow we are expecting durable good orders from the United States of May, which were -6 last month. They are expecting to go up to 8.6%. But quarter one corporate profits were expected -0.4. That's also coming tomorrow. That's expected to become -3.6. That means corporate profits, no, they are losing. Okay. Core PCE prices were 2.60. These news will all come tomorrow, US time 8:30, Turkish time 15:30. Okay. The time difference between two countries. And so during this review, I mentioned about the real reason of what's expected from the Iranian and Israeli conflict, sending missiles, countries apart. What's really expected? No invasion. So also I mentioned about real reason of inflation. Today also another argument was if the US pays very high tariffs, it's going to increase their inflation, which is a wrong argument because increasing price of something does not increase inflation as it's taught to everyone in schools. If you print money, then you get inflation. If you print more money than growth itself, then you create inflation. Otherwise, this has been a proven fact during the COVID crisis or COVID disease, whatever. The countries who did not print money, like Japan and China, had almost zero inflation, whereas countries distributed free money to all its people by printing, of course, like US and Europe, which were originally never had very high inflation rate, suddenly had 10% up to 9.5% or 10% inflation. Why? They printed money. Japan and China are importers, so we cannot say a supply lack inflation wouldn't happen in Japan, especially when they import everything from oil to all the raw materials. Similar goes for China. So we now understand, or not understand, accept, maybe they will never accept, when you create inflation, people cannot create inflation. Price increases cannot create inflation. Only thing that creates inflation is government, Fed, giving more treasury notes. Governments keep printing money. The Fed keeps printing money. Government gives them treasury bills. Basically that's how they create the initial money. Then the banks start creating multiple times of this money with loans, and then you have huge inflation because there is only one item instead of one money following one item. Right now, five money is following one item. Items are same amount; they cannot increase, like oil, bread, meat, butter, whatever. But the money is 5 times more. Then you get inflation. So basically, that's the real situation. Uh, to summarize everything, what are we going to invest in different countries? In the US, we know that the Nasdaq and S&P were up to their highest, maybe the last few days, but there's a big problem. If it goes into recession, there has always been a bull market right before recessions. So that's why I personally stayed out of American equities or mutual funds holding American equities, and also the big investment groups. They are staying away from U.S. equities as well. It's the consumer, the retail buyers who are buying this, and they may end up holding the bag in the end. We'll just have to wait a couple of months to find out if this is a big recession or not. if the drop is only just 5%, 10%, it's called correction. It's not called a bear market. If it goes down more than 10%, 20, 30%, then it's called a bear market. So that's what's expected, not just by me, by many people. Well, we'll see. Time will prove who is right and who's wrong. Not in 10 days, not in 1 month. Let's say sell in May and go away. How about September, October? I think that's good enough timing to see what happens in September, October, in the autumn month. Right now it's summer. Everybody's on holiday. And gold, will it increase in price? It will, after relaxing a little bit, which gold is not a excited investment. That's why governments keep them in their storages, never sell them, only just keep it. Similarly, don't expect big gold sales from anyone because it's just kept by government treasuries and they want to be the reserve currency. So nobody's planning to sell their gold. On the opposite, last night, as you know, both Germany and Italy from Europe, they are keeping some of their gold in United States. They said they want it back as quick as possible. I don't think they'll get it. Although there were airlines of shipment of gold from Europe to USA at the time when Trump was just reelected. Nobody knows why there was such a rush and that gold just never came back. There is a game coming on, so it's better to wait 3 or 4 months. Let's see what happens. We may be right, we may be wrong, but there are indicators. We are not talking out of our head. We are looking at the previous past 10 recessions. Out of 10 recessions, 8 of them happened in this kind of environment. So there is still a chance, like the 2%, or 2 of them, which may just slightly get through it. We'll see how that happens. Okay? Yeah, I wish you all a good night, and probably we'll have another English video in a month or two. Excuse for some of my language, let's say, stoppages, let's say, whatever, because I don't practice English every day, maybe once every month. So that's very normal. I listen to a lot of and read a lot of information online, on X and everywhere. But talking is a different issue, especially when you're making a live broadcast like I'm doing right now. Okay? I wish you all a happy new year. Happy birthday, not happy birthday. Happy New Year. Happy 1447. What's wrong with celebrating 3, 4 New Years? It's good to celebrate anything, any chance you get, keep celebrating. Okay, even if you are not Muslim, don't worry. We are celebrating the Christian New Year's days, even better than the foreigners and Christians are doing. So there is nothing wrong in you celebrating. Maybe you can take a day off, or a couple of days off. It's a New Year day. Okay. See you all later on. Bye bye.